Well, last year you joined other European telecommunication companies demanding a radical change to the telecommunications landscape in Europe. Has anything significantly changed?
Well, since then, I think what has changed is that the consensus is shared on what needs to be changed, because we had the Mario Draghi report, we had the Enrico Letta report. So I think everyone now understands the issue. I think what hasn't changed is that we still don't have a fix to the issue. Now, a few things have changed, because obviously as Orange, we've been actively driving consolidation in Europe, especially in this country, in Spain, and we had the closing of the Mass Orange transaction since then. Of course, we had the CMA decision as well in the UK with, for Vodafone and Hutch. So we see things changing. Now, there's still a lot of hope. I think there's a lot of pressure in Europe from the business environment on our political leaders to get things to change. But really, things have not yet changed, but there's some hope.
How much further does consolidation need to go in Europe for you to have enough scale?
Well, let's be clear. Today, our business is a business of scale, because our networks in every single country, if you're the number one in a country, the more customers you have on your network, the more ability you have to invest and to reduce the cost per gigabit for customers, which means cheaper price for customers, which means more ability to invest. So this is a very virtuous circle. And in every country, when we are number one, we see that. We have more ability to invest. So now, it's true that in some countries in Europe, we still have 5, 6 players, and we see that in some countries, India has moved from 12 to 3 operators. The US has moved as well to 3 operators. So I think there shouldn't be any, magic number. Every country is different, but clearly we see a trend where 3 operators is a lot of competition, and it's 3 operators investing to compete. That's good for the economy, that's good for consumers, that's good for infrastructure.
Your industry colleague over at Deutsche Telekom was saying you need less red tape, less regulation. You need to see a digital single market, more spectrum. Do you agree?
Clearly, we need more spectrum, because there's still a lot more traffic coming, and the AI has not scaled yet. So more spectrum for sure. Digital single market. Today we don't benefit in Europe of the size of the market. We have a huge consumer market, but we have 27 member states, 27 national regulation. And clearly red tape is something that it's not specific to the telecom industry. I'm sure if you interview any CEO, they would tell you this is still way too slow, way too heavy. And now, as big companies, we got used to it. But if we compare with other countries, and I think we see the rest of the world keeps on simplifying. So this is really an issue.
Does Europe also need a Doge? Not a Dogecoin, but a Department of Government Efficiency?
Well, I think, yesterday during our keynote, that's what Tim Hodges said. And so we need maybe not, I think the way to do things has to be appropriate to our culture, to respect people. But clearly we need to take it seriously, because we are really, the gap keeps increasing with the rest of the world. And this is a serious issue for the competitiveness of Europe.
2025 has begun like the Hunger Games of AI. You've had Stargate, DeepSeek came out from the Chinese, the Europeans have come out at the recent AI Action Summit and spoke a big game about lifting infrastructure spending as well. Where do you think Europe is at in terms of playing the AI game?
Well, I think the AI race or the AI revolution is a real one. And and we are just at the beginning. We've seen the DeepSeek moment when everyone realized that open source and the efficiency of the models is really moving very fast. A lot of money is being invested, of course, in infrastructure. And by the way, we are very pleased that our networks will be critical to scale AI. We've invested a lot on fiber, we've invested on 5G. We need to continue to invest to get our networks ready for the AI revolution. But it's clear that in Europe we have talents, we have champions. If we think about AI for healthcare, if we think about AI for consumers, AI for education, so AI is not going to be just about the large models and the big data centers. It's going to be as well about the data, the know-how, the expertise. And this is where we cannot miss the wave in Europe, because it's going to be about the next wave of innovation, and we need to make sure that the existing European champions remain champions tomorrow in their own industries, as well as creating new champions. And this is where, again, we need a Europe that promotes investment, that attracts innovation, and that allows to scale companies across Europe.
I asked you last year whether you would get into the business of hyperscaling, and you said no. And effectively, just to piece it together, the deep capex requirements around 4G, 5G have impacted the business, but of course the revenue game is smaller, it's lower in terms of the ability to pay for hyperscaling. Has DeepSeek changed the narrative? Because I know some other telecoms companies across the world are looking at using DeepSeek and getting into the hyperscaling business.
Well, I don't think DeepSeek is one model, but there are all the ones. And by the way, there are also European ones, and we are very committed to making sure that we also help the European ecosystem. But we're working with all technology partners, whether they're American, Chinese, or European, of course, and from all over the world. And I think what's important is that the open source model and the AI revolution will happen at the edge of the network. And I think the revolution we haven't seen yet, but we can feel it here in Barcelona. That's going to be the AI phones, the AI PC. A lot of the AI revolution will happen at the edge of the network because it's going to be more secured, it's going to be with your own data, and this is really something we haven't seen yet. And by the way, if you think about the world of AI tomorrow, you're going to talk to your phone, you're not going to scroll the screens anymore. This is a back to voice moment for us in our industry. This is very exciting.
Have you dabbled with DeepSeek yet?
We are working with DeepSeek, we are working with all models, we are testing them, comparing them, and actually we realize that depending on the use case you have, some models are better than others. And so we will have to get used to that world where it's not going to be one size fits all, it's going to be really depending on what type of use case. Always thinking frugal AI. So you don't want to spend a lot of money with large models if you are not looking for something that's very complex to solve. So it's going to be really, fine-tuning the use of all those models. And the innovation keeps going because, DeepSeek is one example, but this open source approach, which we really like in our industry, is going to keep on bringing new innovation. The barrier to entry is lower.
Last week, NVIDIA was spelling out that agency AI, agentic AI was coming our way, and it was one of the big trends. What are you seeing on that front for the enterprise, for the customer?
It's going to come for sure. It's going to come on phones, it's going to come on PCs, and it's not there yet, but it's coming as use cases within companies. And we have our own use of AI within the company at Orange. We have 60,000 employees using AI on a regular basis already. And we see the efficiency, but it's still very early. But AI agents are coming, and that's going to be the way to consume AI for you and I tomorrow, each of us in our different jobs, depending on the use cases that we have.
Explain how you see these artificial intelligent agents playing out for the consumer. How revolutionary is it going to be?
It really depends on, I think the one who are using more today are the younger population, the students. I think if you interview a teacher, they would tell you, in university especially, they would tell you this is really changing the way education is performed. But think about healthcare, think about, of course, employees in a company. If you are in an HR department, in finance, in innovation, developers, programmers, software developers, they are already using a lot, AI. So it's going to be very different from one-to-one. Now, really what's going to change for consumers, it's really going to be the way you interact with your mobile phone. And you may have your agent at home that will be in your router, in your home gateway. You will have your own agent on your mobile phone, and this is something that you want to keep very secure because you have all your personal data on the phone. So I think the security of AI is something that keeps on increasing, of course, but that's going to be a main theme, and this is where, as telco operators, we want to make sure that we are the trusted partners of our customers.
As you talk about security, the geopolitical landscape is changing. Questions linger about the US's commitment to its Western allies, whether it should even be part of NATO. In that context, how secure, how critical is telecommunications?
Well, I think our communication networks have proved already many times that they are highly critical. Think about COVID, when everyone was locked in and we were relying only on our networks to work, to educate, to share things with our family and friends. And I think during, every situation around the world when there's a conflict, we know how critical communications are. So this is something that we have deeply in our roots in this industry that our employees are very proud of the work they do, especially when there's extreme events, and unfortunately because of climate change there are, or when there are great events like the Olympics during last summer in Paris. So we spend a lot of money on securing our networks, for our customers, and this is again something that justifies the require for scale and the reality, which is smaller operators, it's going to be more difficult to continue to invest because yes, our infrastructures are critical. It's not just cybersecurity, it's really security.
The US has just unleashed tariffs, Canada, Mexico, China, threats that Europe is next. Is any of this going to catch up with Orange?
Well, I mean, our industry, I think any business would be exposed to tariff, and I think especially in Europe, I mean, Europe relies on the global economy. I don't think tariff is good in the end for any business. We're not as exposed maybe than other industries, so we would be more in the, after wave, but of course that's something we follow carefully because we want to work in an open world where there's no limit to what we can do with any parts of the world.
Just finally, AI plus 5G. 5G didn't deliver the sort of revenue bounce some industry players had hoped. What does AI plus 5G mean for revenues?
Well, I think unless you have 5G, we're not going to be able to deliver AI at scale to consumers and companies. And some of the things we're showing here in our booth is the potential of indeed 5G to deliver AI. So I think AI will really be the killer application of 5G. And this is something that we see coming. Now the 5G networks are being rolled out and all the functionalities of 5G will be used exactly for what they were conceived for. And so you're going to be able to differentiate. Think about having roads, highways. You're going to differentiate the traffic depending on the use case, and you're going to be able to dedicate some streams of 5G for some usage that really require low latency because of AI use cases, and others which will be more best effort because you're just consuming the web as you've been doing for a long time. So really 5G, AI without 5G is not going to be the experience where every one of us can enjoy this technology.
But can you charge more for 5G because of AI?
So that's exactly what our industry is going to go after. And we're all innovating, we're testing things. This is something we're not just discussing amongst operators, that's something we're discussing with technology providers, with big techs, because everyone is trying to find new revenue streams. Now, the consumer world is very different from the business world, so there's going to be a lot of incubation to see what works, but everyone is testing around the world. All operators, we're sharing notes on what works and what does not work.
Christel, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.